All right, man. Goku and Marvel, episode 8. Goku learns about the Xmen, so let's get straight to it. The Hand's foot soldiers knelt before Electra in the dimly lit war room of their hidden stronghold. Their crimson robes still dusted with snow from the Canadian wilderness. The mission had been a success. Stryker had been extracted, and the data was secured, and all the operatives had returned unscathed. Well, all except one. Electra's fingers tightened around the hilt of her side, her dark eyes narrowing as she surveyed the assembled assassins. Where is Dimitri? For those of you that don't know, Dimitri is Goku, but anyway. The lead operative, a masked figure with a silver pauldron, bowed his head. He engaged the intruder, the mutant, the one called the Wolverine. We assumed he would rejoin us after the battle, but he did not return. A flicker of irritation crossed Electra's face. Kravinoff was reckless, but he was never one to abandon a mission without reason. If he hadn't returned, it meant something had gone wrong. Did you search for him? She demanded, her voice dangerously calm. The operative hesitated. The area was compromised. The mutants' allies arrived, another female with explosive powers. We prioritized the extraction, as Goku taught us to. Well, they would have said Dimitri, but y'all get it. The operative hesitated. Then you said what he said. Electra's knuckles whitened around her weapon. The Hand's doctrine was clear. Mission first, lives seconds. But Kravinoff was not just another operative. He was her comrade, the body of the Hand, her responsibility. And if the Wolverine had bested him or worse, she would ensure the beast regretted it. Leave, she ordered, her voice a blade's edge. The assassins obeyed without question, melting into the shadows. Once alone, Electra exhaled slowly, her mind racing. Dimitri was strong, stronger than most of the Hand's elite. But Wolverine was a legend, a killer, who had survived wars, experiments, and time itself. If he had cut Dimitri down, there possibly would be nobody to recover. But if he hadn't, well, things were about to get interesting. Sheathing her sigh, Electra turned toward the exit. The Hand could wait. Her apprentice would not. Logan sat on the motel balcony, the cold night air biting at his skin as he took a slow drag from a cigar. The ember glowed in the darkness, casting flickering shadows across his grizzled face. His mind replayed the battle. Every slash, every roar, every moment, that damn kid had pushed him to his limits. But something else nagged at him. The red ninjas in red robes. He'd seen them before. Years ago in the shadows of Madripoor in the alleys of Tokyo. The Hand wasn't just another assassin guild. They were a cult. Fanatics who worshipped death and resurrection. Their operatives trained to kill without hesitation. And they had been working with Stryker. Why? Logan exhaled. Smoke, his claws twitching at the memory of the crimson-clad assassins escorting Stryker to safety. And then there was Goku, wearing that same shade of red, fighting like a trained killer, but grinning like a kid who just loved the thrill of battle. Kravinoff, the Hand operative, had called him. A name. A connection. Connecting them to be associates. Logan's jaw tightened. If the kid was with the Hand, then this wasn't over. They didn't leave their valuable assets behind, and a fighter like Goku, they would want him back. He glanced back at the motel room where Jubilee was keeping an eye on the unconscious Saiyan. If the Hand came hunting, they wouldn't ask nicely. They'd try to take him by force or put a blade through anyone in their way. Logan flicked the cigar onto the snow, watching it sizzle out. He'd fought the Hand before. He knew some of their tricks. And if they came for the kid, well, they'd find out why they called him the Wolverine. Logan pushed open the motel room door, the hinges creaking softly. Inside, Jubilee sat on the edge of the bed, arms crossed, watching Goku's unconscious form with a mix of annoyance and concern. The kid was still out cold, his breathing steady but slow, his body bruised from the transformation in the battle that was before it. Logan leaned against the door frame, his arms folded. We got a problem. Jubilee didn't even look up. What, besides the fact that we're babysitting a naked monkey boy who turns into King Kong himself? Logan ignored the sarcasm. Look, the Hand doesn't let go of their people easy. And if they send him after Stryker, they're going to come looking for him. Jubilee finally turned her head, raising an eyebrow. So? Logan's eyes narrowed. So? The Hand's not some street gang, kid. They're assassins. Cultists. They don't just lose track of their own and shrug it off. Jubilee just rolled her eyes. Oh, please. If Kravenov was some super assassin, he wouldn't have held back against me. I never mentioned it before, but he could have killed me at least twice over if he wanted to. She gestured at Goku's unconscious form. Look at him. He's just a dumb teenager who probably got caught up in something messed up. Logan exhaled through his nose, frustration simmering. You don't know what the hand does to these people. They twist him, brainwash him. He might not even remember who he was before they got their claws in him. Jubilee shot him a glare. And what? You think we should just dump him in the snow and hope the hand doesn't find him? Real heroic, huh, Logan? Logan's jaw clenched. He wasn't arguing out of cruelty. He'd seen what the hand could do. But Jubilee made a point. Goku had held back. He fought like a warrior and not some mindless killer trying to end the battle as soon as it begun. Fine, Logan grunted. But when a dozen red ninjas kick down the door, don't say I didn't warn you. Jubilee smirked. Please. Like I can't handle a few ninjas. Logan shook his head, stepping back outside. He'd keep watch for now. If the hand came, he'd be ready. And if the kid woke up with murder in his eyes, well, that was a bridge he'd cross when it came to it. As Logan turned away, the faintest smirk tugged at the corner of his mouth. Kid's already got someone watching his back. Jubilee might act tough, but she had a soft spot for strays. Hell, she'd even given him a chance when he was at his worst. And now, despite all logic, she was defending Goku like he was just some lost teenager instead of a potential hand-trained weapon. Hand-trained assassin. Logan exhaled, the cold air turning his breath to mist. He'd seen plenty of killers in his time. Cold, efficient, and ruthless. Goku didn't really fit that mold exactly. The kid fought like a warrior, sure, but there was something different about him, something wild and untamed, not the calculated precision of a true assassin. A mutant, maybe. But his powers didn't line up with any mutant ability Logan had seen before. The strength, the speed, the tail, then that insane transformation into a giant ape like he was Hulk or something. That wasn't just a mutation. That had to be something else. Still, if the kid was a mutant, that did change things. The professor would want to know about him. And if the hand had gotten their claws into a young mutant with that type of power, that was a problem. Bigger than even Stryker. Logan glanced back at the motel room, listening to Jubilee's muttered complaints about stupid boys and their stupid monster problems. For now, he'd keep watch. But when the kid woke up, they were probably going to have a long talk. Goku groaned as his eyes fluttered open, his head pounding like he'd taken a direct hit from one of Jubilee's plasma blasts to the face point blank. The ceiling above him was unfamiliar, cracked plaster, a flickering fluorescent light. He blinked, twice, trying to piece together how he'd gotten here. Then he noticed Jubilee sitting across from him, arms crossed, her usual yellow trench coat missing. Instead, she wore just her pink tank top, her pink tinted shades perched on her forehead as she glared at him. Finally awake, sleeping beauty, she huffed. Goku pushed himself up and then froze. Something felt off. He looked down. Yellow fabric. He was wearing Jubilee's coat. His eyes widened. When did this happen? Jubilee's cheeks flushed slightly, but she rolled her eyes. Oh, don't freak out. You passed out buck naked after turning into Godzilla, and I wasn't about to let you freeze to death, so congrats. You're borrowing my jacket until we find you some real clothes. Goku tugged at the sleeves, which were a little tight around his arms. Thanks? Jubilee smirked. Yeah, just don't stretch it out. That coat's vintage. Goku tugged at the bright yellow sleeves of Jubilee's trench coat, wrinkling his nose. Not to sound ungrateful or anything, but I don't really like the color. Jubilee's eye twitched. Slowly, she leaned forward, her fingers cracking with tiny, dangerous sparks. Oh, you don't? Goku, blissfully unaware of the impending doom, nodded. Yeah, it's kind of flashy, Back in the Savage Lands, Craven always said hunters should blend in. Whoosh! A plasma spark detonated right in his face, singeing his eyebrows. Goku yelped, scrambling backward as Jubilee loomed over him, her eyes burning hotter than her powers. Let me get this straight, she hissed, each word dripping with venom. You turn into a 50-foot rage monster, wreck half a mountain, pass out butt-ass naked in the snow, and I, being the saint that I am, save your dumb ass from frostbite by giving you my coat, and you have the nerve to complain about the color? If Goku still had his tail, it would have puffed up like a startled cat. For the first time in his life, he was feeling true fear. And it wasn't from a super soldier, a monster, or even the hand itself. It was from a 5'0" teenager with a lethal manicure. I mean, he gulped, clutching the coat tighter. It's starting to grow on me, really. Super comfy and stylish, yeah. Jubilee's glare could have melted adamantium. Yeah, you're welcome. Goku nodded frantically. Thank you. Best coat ever. 10 out of 10. Would wear again. Jubilee exhaled sharply through her nose before flopping back into her chair, muttering, You boys are the worst. Goku wisely decided to keep any further fashion critiques to himself. But then Goku's playful grin faded as he stared down at his hands, his fingers curled into fists, because memories were beginning to rush back. The red haze, the uncontrollable rage he felt, the way his body had twisted and grown into something monstrous. He had only vague flashes of what had happened after the transformation, but he knew enough. Craven's voice echoed in his mind. The moon is your enemy, boy. Never look at it. Jubilee watched as Goku's expression darkened, his usual energy replaced by something far heavier. Hey, she said cautiously. You okay? Goku exhaled sharply. That thing I turned into. It wasn't my first time. Jubilee frowned. Wait, you've done that before? He nodded. Yeah, when I was little, Craven told me it was the moon. The full moon, it does something to me. Makes me change. His jaw tightened. I don't remember much when it happens, just anger and destruction after it's over. Jubilee's eyes widened slightly. So that's why you freaked out when you saw my fireworks. Goku grimaced. Yeah, I must have seen the moon when I watched your fireworks in the sky. I wasn't paying attention. And then, he clenched his fists. Boom, monster. A long silence stretched between them. Jubilee chewed her gum thoughtfully before speaking. Okay, so full moon equals giant rage monkey. Got it. But you've dealt with this before, right? How did this Craven guy stop it? Goku's lips pressed into a thin line. He didn't stop it. He just locked me up. When I was little, he chained me in caves on full moon nights. Later, he started making me wear a weighted belt that would crush my tail the second it started growing for a little bit until I was older. He said that my tail was the trigger. He reached behind him instinctively as if expecting to feel his missing tail. Guess he was right. Jubilee's nose wrinkled. Damn, that's messed up. Goku shrugged. It worked mostly. But you lost control this time. Yeah, his voice was quiet. Because I wasn't careful. Jubilee leaned back, crossing her arms. Okay, so lesson learned. No moon gazing. But what now? You just gonna avoid looking at the sky forever? Goku didn't answer right away. He had spent years training, fighting, pushing his limits. But this was different. This was a strength he could control. It was a curse. Finally, he looked up at her. I don't know. But I can't let it happen again. Jubilee studied him for a moment before sighing. Well, lucky for you, I know a guy who knows a guy who definitely has experience with weird mutant problems. Goku's tail, or rather the phantom sensation of it, twitched as he leaned forward after asking Jubilee about the nature of her powers, his earlier tension forgotten in the face of Jubilee's powers. Wait, so your fireworks aren't just explosions, right? You can, control how strong they are. Jubilee smirked, popping a bubble before snapping her fingers. A tiny pink spark danced between her fingertips before fizzling out. Duh. I don't just go around blowing stuff up all the time. Most of the time, maybe. She wriggled her fingers. I can dial it down to party tricks, or crank it up to melt a tank. Levels. It's all about the focus. Goku's eyes widened. Whoa, so you could, blast a hole in a mountain if you wanted? Jubilee rolled her eyes. Yeah, if I wanted to pass out from exhaustion afterward. Bigger blasts take way more energy, she tapped her temple. Beast, the super smart furry guy at the X Mansion, says my powers are lumikinetic, which is just a fancy way of saying I make explosive light. But the coolest part, she grinned, is I can even take it back. Goku blinked. Huh? Jubilee held out her palm, conjuring a small, shimmering orb of plasma. Then, with the flick of her wrist, the energy dissolved back into her skin like water, soaking into sand. Boom, unboom. Boom, unboom. I can absorb my own fireworks if I don't use them. Saves energy that way. Goku's jaw dropped. Whoa, that's insane. Can you do that with other explosions? Jubilee shrugged. I don't know. Never tried. But B says if I train hard enough, I might even be able to. She paused, mimicking a deep, scholarly voice. Manipulate matter at a subatomic level, triggering controlled detonations within solid objects. She dropped the act, smirking. Basically, I can make anything explode just by transferring my lumikinetic energy to it. Goku grinned, turned feral. That's so cool. Jubilee preened. Yeah, well, don't get any ideas. I'm not blowing you up for science. Goku laughed, but his mind raced. If Jubilee could refine her power like that, she might one day be strong enough to really challenge him. And that thought made him excited. Logan trudged through the wreckage of the battlefield, his boots crunching over scorched earth and shattered ice. The Ozari's rampage had left the mountainside in ruins. Trees were uprooted, boulders were split in half, and the remnants of the military base were reduced to smoldering debris. His nostrils flared, sitting through the scents of burnt metal, melted snow, and lingering ozone from Jubilee's plasma blast. But beneath it all, something else lingered. A familiar musk, wild, untamed, but not quite human. That must have been Goku's scent. Logan crouched, running his claws through the snow. Where the kid had transformed, the ground was still warm. The energy from the metamorphosis lingering like radiation. His instincts pricked. This wasn't just some random mutation. This was something deeper, something perhaps otherworldly. And then there was a whisper of movement. Logan grunted as cold steel punched through his abdomen, the blade sliding between his ribs with surgical precision. Blood splattered the snow as he looked down, seeing the glint of a katana protruding from his chest. His healing factor flared, muscles knitting around the wound even as the pain radiated outward. He turned his head, following the blade's length to a figure behind him, a woman clad in crimson, her dark hair framing a face as sharp as the weapon in her hands, her eyes cold and calculating, locked onto his with lethal focus. Electra. Logan knew her, not personally, but by reputation. The Black Sky, one of the Hand's deadliest assassins, if not the deadliest assassin, and now standing over him like a wraith, her blade buried in his flesh. Logan's snarl ripped through the air as his body twisted with feral instinct. His muscles coiled, and with a violent jerk, he wrenched himself free from Electra's blade. The steel sliding out of his gut with a sickening schlick. Blood splattered the snow, but he barely registered the pain. His healing factor was already stitching the wound closed, the flesh knitting together in seconds. His claws snicked out in a flash of adamantium, glinting under the moonlight as he lunged backward, putting distance between them. His eyes burned with fury, his stance low and predatory. You've got 3 seconds to tell me why I shouldn't gut you where you stand, he growled, the words dripping with malice. Extra didn't flinch. She flicked her katana to the side, sending a crimson arc of his blood splashing onto the snow. Her dark eyes remained locked onto his, unblinking. You took something of mine, she said, her voice as sharp as the blade that was in her hand. And I want him back. Logan's lips peeled back into a feral grin. Is that right, Toots? Logan's growl rumbled deep in his chest, a primal warning that would have sent most men running. His claws gleamed under the pale moonlight, still slick with his own blood from when Electra's blade had pierced him moments ago. You picked the wrong damn night to mess with me, lady, he snarled, his eyes burning with barely restrained fury behind his mask. The scent of his own blood mixed with the crisp mountain air, his healing factor stitching the wound in his gut, closed with each passing second. Electra didn't so much as flinch. She stood like a statue, carved from shadow, her crimson outfit blending into the night, her katana held loosely at her side. Only her eyes betrayed any reaction, a slight narrowing, a flicker of impatience. Where is he? She demanded, her voice as cold as the steel that was in her hand. Logan bared his teeth. Who the hell are you talking about? Kravenov. The name left her lips like a blade being unsheathed. Logan's smirk was all feral amusement. Oh, the kid. Yeah, I've got him. And I don't feel like telling you jack about where he is. He flexed his claws, the adamantium glinting. You want them? You're gonna have to cut that information out of me. Electra exhaled through her nose, her grip tightening on her sword. A mistake. Logan chuckled, rolling his shoulders. Yeah, we'll see. The tension between them cracked like live wires, circling before the kill. Logan's lips twisted into a savage grin as he rolled his shoulders, the last traces of his healing wound already fading beneath his shredded shirt. Let's see what you can do when my back isn't turned, woman. He growled before launching himself at Electra in a blur of motion. His claws carved through the air with a deadly shink, aiming to split her from shoulder to hip. But Electra was faster. Her katana flashed upward in a silver arc, meeting the adamantium with the screech of metal on metal. Sparks erupted between them as their weapons locked, their faces inches from each other apart. Logan's nostrils flared, catching a scent of her, steel, leather, and something faintly floral beneath all the bloodlust. Not bad, he admitted, before twisting his wrist and forcing her blade aside. Electra didn't give ground. She pivoted on her heel, her sword whipping around in a lethal backhand slash that would have taken a chunk out of Logan's neck if he hadn't have ducked. The blade whistled over him close enough to shear a few hairs from the wild mane. You're faster than I expected, Logan grunted, already countering with a swipe at her legs. Electra flipped over the attack, landing lightly before lunging again, her katana a silver streak in the moonlight. Claws met steel once more, and the real battle was beginning. Meanwhile, we go back to the place. Goku's eyes were practically sparkled as Jubilee leaned back on the motel bed, counting off all the different names on her fingers. Yeah, you got Storm. She can control the weather, like actual lightning and tornadoes and stuff, Jubilee said, popping her gum. Jean's a telekinetic and a telepath. She can lift things with her mind and read your thoughts. Rogue, touch her and she'll drain your powers and maybe your life. And Cyclops, dude's eye beams could blast a hole through a mountain if you wanted. Goku's tail's stump twitched under Jubilee's borrowed coat. His grin widening with every word. No way. That sounds awesome. He bounced on the edge of the bed, fist clenching excitement. Do you think they'd spar with me? I bet Storm's crazy strong. Imagine fighting as someone who can summon hurricanes. Jubilee rolled her eyes. No. We don't just fight for fun, monkey boy. We train to not destroy cities. Come on, Goku laughed, undeterred. Fighting strong people is the best way to get stronger. That's how it worked with Kraven and T'Challa and... He paused. Electra. He said her name with the realization. Goku's grin faltered mid-sentence. His head snapped toward the door, his body tensing like coiled spring. Some deep primal instinct flared in his gut. A scent, a presence, a fight. Jubilee blinked. Hello, Earth to Monkey Boy. He didn't answer. Instead, he bolted upright, nearly tearing Jubilee's borrowed coat in his haste. Hey, where the hell are you? But Goku was already out the door, bare feet slapping against the cold pavement as he sprinted into the night. Jubilee groaned, scrambling after him. Oh, for the love of... Again? The cold air bit at Goku's skin, but he barely felt it. His senses were dialed to 11, zeroing in on the distant clash of steel that he could hear, and the unmistakable scent of blood. Logan's blood, he'd smelt it before, and beneath it, something sharper, something familiar. Electra. His pulse roared in his ears. She was here, fighting Logan. She must have come for me. Jubilee caught up, panting. Dude, what's your deal? Goku didn't slow down. It's Electra. Who the heck is... Wait, you're Electra, the assassin lady? Goku's jaw set. I should have known she would come looking for me because she probably thinks I'm either dead or I've been kidnapped. Jubilee's eyes widened. Oh, crap. Logan's out there. Electra's breath came steady, her movements fluid as she danced around Wolverine's relentless onslaught. His claws were a blur, each swipe carving through the air with enough force to cleave steel. But she was faster. She was using precision over power. She didn't waste energy on brute force. Instead, she exploited openings, her katana flicked out like a serpent's tongue, aiming for tendons, pressure points, anything to slow him down. A shallow cut across the wrist, a slash at his hamstring, minor wounds that would cripple a normal man, but Logan wasn't normal. His healing factor sealed each injury nearly instantly, making her strikes little more than fleeting inconveniences. So she tried mind games. She feinted left, then right, her footwork erratic, forcing him to second guess her next move. Witty lunge, she twisted mid-air, landing behind him and driving her blade towards his spine, only for him to pivot at the last second, his claws deflecting her strike. She was planning on trapping her opponent, though. Electra moved like a liquid shadow, her crimson form twisting between Logan's slashes. His claws carved through the air, but she was always a half step ahead, until she let him close the distance. With the flick of her wrist, twin daggers slipped from her sleeves, or from a pouch. Logan's instinct screamed too late. Thunk, thunk. The blades burrowed themselves deep into his deltoid muscles, the serrated edges laced with some type of paralytic toxin meant for regenerative mutants. Logan's arms locked up instantly, his healing factor useless against the foreign objects that were still lodged in his flesh. His knees buckled and he crashed face first into the snow, his claws twitching uselessly. Electra landed atop his back, one knee pinning his spine, her lips brushing his ear as she whispered, "Now, let's try this again." Logan snarled, veins bulging as he fought the blades that were inside of him. "You think this'll hold me?" She twisted the dagger, his muscles spasmed. "I know it will," she purred. "These blades disrupt your nerve signals where I have them buried. You can heal all you want, but as long as they're in you, you're not moving." Her free hand traced the edge of his jaw. "So, where is Dimitri?" Logan's growl was more animal than man. "Go to hell." Electra sighed, rolled her eyes, then drove a knee into his kidney. Logan's breath exploded out of him, but he refused to cry out. "Stubborn," she mused, "but I have time today." Her fingers curled around the hilt of one of the daggers. "Let's see how many twists it'll take before you start talking." Logan bared his teeth. "You're going to regret this." Electra smirked. "I doubt it." But then Electra's instinct screamed a split second before a blast hit. A searing sphere of pink and gold plasma rocketed toward her, crackling with unstable energy. She barely had time to react, twisting mid-motion, her body arching into a backflip as the explosive projectile whizzed past her face. Heat scorched her cheek, close enough to singe a few strands of her dark hair before the blast detonated against a nearby boulder, reducing it into smoldering rubble. She landed in a crouch, katana already raised, her dark eyes locking onto the source of the attack. Jubilee stood a dozen yards away, her blue glove still smoking, her expression a mix of defiance and fear. "Back off, lady." Electra's lips curled into a cold smirk. "Cute." Then, movement from the side. Logan didn't waste a second. The moment Electra's weight shifted off of him to dodge Jubilee's blast, his healing factor surged, burning through the paralytic toxin like wildfire. His muscles unlocked in an instant, and with a feral snarl, he exploded upwards. Claws first. Electra barely had time to register the movement before Logan was on her, his adamantium claws gleaming in the moonlight as they arched toward her throat. She twisted mid-air, her katana flashing in a desperate parry, but she was going to be too late, probably. But Logan's claws were inches from Electra's throat when a blur of motion intercepted him, a bare foot slamming into his ribs with enough force to send him hurling backward. The impact cracked the air like a gunshot, and Logan's body rocketed across the battlefield, skidding to a stop right at Jubilee's feet in a spray of snow. Jubilee yelped, jumping back. "Logan." Goku landed between them and Electra, his stance slow, fists raised. His borrowed yellow coat flared behind him, the sleeves strained against his muscles. His eyes flicked between Logan and Jubilee, then he locked onto Electra. "Electra," he said, voice tight. She straightened, flicking her katana to the side. "Kravnov." Logan growled, forcing himself up, claws still out. "Kid, you better step aside." Goku didn't move. "Fight's over." Electra gaze sharpened. "You're protecting them?" Goku hesitated. They helped me." Electra's gaze sharpened. Jubilee blinked. "I can't believe you know this psycho." Electra's smirk returned, slow and dangerous. Oh, Dimitri. You always did have a soft spot for the weird." Goku's jaw clenched. "We don't have to be enemies with them." We don't have a mission against them. Logan scoffed, wiping blood from his mouth. Tell that to the lady with the poison knives. Electra tilted her head. You're coming back with me. Goku excelled. Yeah, I know. Goku's tense stance relaxed, his fists unclenching as he turned to face Logan and Jubilee. Despite the lingering adrenaline, a genuine grin spread across his face, one that held no real malice, no battle hunger, just pure appreciation. Hey, he said, rubbing the back of his neck sheepishly. Thanks for, not letting me freeze to death or get eaten by wolves or whatever. His grin widened. And for not stabbing me when I was passed out. That was real cool of you. Jubilee blinked, then snorted, crossing her arms. Yeah, well, don't get used to it. Next time you turn into a kaiju, I'm blasting you first and asking questions never. But there was no real bite to her words, just a smirk tugging at her lips. Logan, still glowering, retracted his claws with a snick. Kid, you've got a real talent for attracting trouble. Goku laughed. Yeah, well, trouble's pretty fun. His expression softened slightly as he glanced between them. But seriously, you didn't have to help me, and you did. I say that means something. Jubilee rolled her eyes, but her smirk softened. Don't get all mushy. Just promise not to go full King Kong on us again, okay? Deal. Goku chirped before turning back to Electra. All right, let's go. Electra arched her brow, amused. No arguments? Goku shrugged. Nah, you came all this way for me, so let's go home. He shot one last grin at Jubilee and Logan. See you around, maybe. Jubilee hesitated for a moment before stepping forward, her usual smirk giving way to something softer. Hey, monkey boy. She crossed her arms, trying to sound casual, but there was a sincerity in her voice. If you ever get tired of the whole assassin gig, you'll know where to find us. Goku tilted his head. Huh? She rolled her eyes but smirked. The X Mansion, genius. The place I was telling you about. If you ever want to train with people who won't stab you in the back, she said, narrowing her eyes at Electra. Just hang out or something. Just hang out with someone who doesn't worship death or whatever. Look us up. She dug into her pocket and tossed him a small metallic X-shaped communicator. Here, just press the button if you ever need backup, or I don't know, if you just want to spar or whatever. Goku caught it, turning the device over in his hands with a grin. Whoa, really? You're just giving me this? Jubilee shrugged, trying to play it cool. Don't make it weird. Just don't lose it, okay? Logan grunted, arms crossed. Kid shows up unannounced, I'm still going to punch him first. Goku laughed, tucking the communicator into Jubilee's borrowed coat. Deal. His grin was bright, genuine. You can count on it. I'll visit you guys someday. Jubilee nodded, satisfied. Yeah, better not take too long. Electra watched the exchange with mild amusement before turning her back to them. Electra didn't wait for any further goodbyes. With a final glance at Logan, her dark eyes lingered just long enough to convey a warning. She turned on her heel and strode toward the tree line. Her crimson clothing whispered against the snow, her movements effortless, as if she were gliding rather than walking. Goku hesitated for only a second, glancing back at Jubilee and Logan one last time before jogging after her. His bare feet crunched through the frost, the borrowed yellow coat flapping behind him. Jubilee watched them go, arms crossed. You think he'll be okay with her? Logan exhaled, the tension in his shoulders easing slightly. Yeah, kid can handle himself. As Electra and Goku vanished into the thickets of the snowy forest, the wind howled between the trees, swallowing their silhouettes. The last thing Jubilee saw was Goku's wild grin flashing in the moonlight before the darkness took them. Logan grunted, turning back toward the motel. Come on, kid. Let's get inside before we freeze our asses off. Jubilee lingered a moment longer, the communicator now in Goku's possession, feeling heavier than it should. Don't take too long, monkey boy, she thought, before following Logan back to the motel. And that's where we're going to end things, man. I hope you guys like this. And now Goku knows about the X-Men, and he's back with the hand. All right, until the next time. Peace.